Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the BASN MMCX, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank BASN Audio for providing the MMCX for review. To greatly appreciate it. BASN Audio, you rock. Alright, so the BASN MMCX, this will set you back $110 from your bank account, and it is a triple driver hybrid. It has two or dual 10mm dynamic drivers and one balanced armature. The balanced armature handles the highs, and then the two dynamics handle the bass and the mids. It has 34 ohms of impedance and 107 decibels of sensitivity and a frequency response range of 20 Hz to 22 kHz. The BASN MMCX, it comes in this white box. You got a little bit of branding. You have a picture here on the front that shows how the in-ear will fit in your ears. Have some information on the backside, some specs. And then you have this statement here that says, hear what you want to hear. Whether on stage or on the go, the triple drivers offer detailed sound with enhanced bass for personal listening or professional monitoring. Taking off the sleeve, and you're greeted by a white box that looks pretty much like the outer sleeve, except you don't have all the extra stuff on the back. Opening up the lid, you have an area for your IEMs to sit, and then an area for a carrying case, and then you have a drawer that pulls out, and you have two little pockets that give you two different cables. So you get a cable with an inline microphone. This is a very nice cable. I like this cable quite a bit. And there's your inline microphone. You have a nice split with a cinch that stays in place. Terminates into a 3.5. This is a smooth feel to it. There's no braiding or anything that's visible to the touch. It's just a very smooth, lightweight cable. And then you have memory wire for your hooks. And oh wow, yeah, shock. It connects with MMCX because of the name of the IEM. So MMCX, memory wire ear hooks, nice cable. I like this cable, but it's not the cable that I use just because I'm not a big, huge fan of the inline microphones. But I did test the inline microphone and it worked very well. The other cable that you get doesn't have an inline microphone, and this one is a braided feel to it. Very tight. Nice and lightweight, just like the other one. It is a little bit lighter because it doesn't have the inline microphone. And again, you have your MMCX connectors with a memory wire. Some of the other accessories that you get 4 different types of tips. This big, huge bag here, and they give small, medium, and large of every single type. So you get foam. You get your olive grape shaped narrow bore. You get triple flange. And you get wide bore dual flange. Wide bore dual flange are the ones that I used. I found that the tips did make a difference. I found that the narrow bore olive grape shaped tip didn't really fit my ears very well. But when I was able to get them pressed in and sealed, I found that they turned the MMCX more into a V-shaped type of sound signature, lots of bass, and it was somewhat uncontrolled, a little bit flabby. And then the upper mids, lower treble region was a little bit too elevated and became a little bit shouty and forward sounding. Going to the others, the foam tips worked well, and I didn't really have any concerns there other than it made it sound a little bit more of a what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit on there wasn't enough treble extension there. We'll just put it that way. And then the triple flange were uncomfortable, but sounded very similar to the wide bore dual flange tip, which opened things up and made it sound a little bit more balanced and cohesive. And those are the ones that the dual flange ones are the ones that I will use to describe the sound with. Some of the other accessories, you get a 1/4 inch adapter, you get a little cleaning tool, and you get a wire clip. And then you get this nice carrying case. It says BASN on it. And you can unzip it and open it up and have plenty of room for IEMs and accessories. There are 2 different pockets. Overall, nice carrying case. Should fit in most pockets and bags. And then you get the MMCX. You can get all kinds of different colors of faceplates on the BASN website. And it's all plastic build. Clear on the back side. You can see the drivers and all the inner workings. They are a little bit on the large size. They're not the super thick, but they are just a little bit on the bigger side. They do not have any ergonomics on the back. It is very smooth. You have quite the aggressive angle. And then you have a short nozzle. Let's connect a cable here. Now it is nice that the cables on the connectors do have little dots that say blue for left and red for right. So this one is the left, and it just clicks in place. When you put them in, I found I had to kind of wiggle them around to get them into the spot that I wanted, and then pull the cable as tightly as possible and just snug it. Memory foam is not my memory wire is not my favorite type of cable connector, as is neither MMCX, but it's doable. You can see that they fit fairly well. They don't protrude out, but they are rather big this way. The aggressive angle that the MMCX has does cause a little bit of discomfort for me after about an hour. And then the short nozzle causes some problems also with the smooth back. And I just find that I'm constantly having to fidget with them and kind of mess with them and make sure that they're secure. The isolation of outside noises isn't really that good. 50-55% of outside noises being blocked. I find that louder environments, you can definitely hear what's going on. I did use these at my church with a Allen and Heath QU24 as a monitor, and I found that I was able to carry on conversations with people around me and be able to hear all the various noises. It didn't really block out and put me in my own little world. When I used them around the house, I was able to hear people listening to the TV, people carrying on conversations with me. I did not have to take them out. And louder things like vacuum cleaners and coffee grinders, vehicles and things like that were definitely noticeable. So they kind of muffle a little bit, but they are not really that good at blocking out outside noises. Comfort-wise, I can wear them for about an hour before I have to take a little bit of a break and then put them back in. I did find that they were a little bit more comfortable with the foam tip. The MMCX from BASN Audio is fairly easy to drive. I found that being 34 ohms and 107 decibels of sensitivity, pretty much anything drove them. I had no issues with any dongles getting them loud. And DAPs and desktop also worked very well. I also didn't have any issues with a higher output impedance devices. They did not hiss, distort, or anything like that with higher output impedances. They were very content on anything that I powered them with. One thing of note, warmer sources or sources that have a little bit more robust of a bottom end, the MMCX got a little bit on the bloated and a muddy side of things and sounded sluggish in the bass and just not as defined. Also, I found that using them with a more neutral source or something that is a little bit more cold and analytical leaning tended to be my preference, as it helped to keep the bass in control and added in a little bit more to the top end, which we'll discuss in a moment. But overall, I found that the BASN MMCX is fairly content on whatever device you paired it with. How do the BASN Audio MMCX sound? So the bass of the MMCX is rather moderately elevated. It has a nice rise going into the sub bass. There is plenty of mid bass, and then the upper bass is also slightly elevated. Thankfully, it does not bleed into the lower mids region. The mid bass is the focus, even though there is some sub bass rise. There's a little bit of rumble and grumble in the sub bass, but it's mostly when called upon, and it's not really that prominent and noticeable. Mid bass is definitely where you're going to get your impact, your punch, your slam, your kick, and all that kind of stuff, and it does a good job of portraying it. It has a little bit of authority, a little bit of power behind it, but this is not a bass head type of IEM presentation. Even though it has a lot of quantity, it more focuses on the quality. I found that the mid bass of the MMCX has a nice control to it, and it has good details and resolution as well. It has nice control, and it has an ability to give you the information that's there in the bass without really dominating with the quantity of it. Even though there is nice punch and slam, it stays pretty much more towards the quality side of things. Tone and timbre is pretty good with the MMCX when it comes to the bass. Things sound accurately reproduced, and then the details are there. You're not really going to get anything new, but you're also not going to lose any information, and it resolves nicely what is provided. Going into the mids have a nice balanced and engaging sound signature. There's good clarity throughout, and there's nice note weight and body, and it adds a little bit of warmth. This is a warmer sounding IEM in the mids. It has this little bit of a lushness to it. It is somewhat smooth and rounded. When you change tips and you go to the more narrow bore tip, it will elevate the upper mids, and they will be a little bit more shouty and forthright sounding, but they don't really ever go into fatigue mode or super aggressive mode. I found that the mid-range has nice note weight and a nice warmness to things, but at times it can sound a little too smooth and a little bit too rounded, and it removes that bite and that crispness from instruments. Going into the treble is rolled off after about 8 to 10K. There is a significant roll off, and the treble is very laid back. It has a little warmness to it, and it just doesn't have quite as much air and space and sparkle and energy as you would expect from a stage monitor. I found that it is a little bit too lackadaisical at times, and even can sound a bit dull and ho-hum in the uppers. I do wish that it had a little bit more sizzle. The treble has okay tone and timbre, just like the bass and the mids, and then detail retrieval is okay. Again, it's not anything super special, and the resolution is somewhat harsh and grainy, especially in the lower treble regions. Going into the soundstage, the BASN MMCX is a small stage. This is not something that you're going to get really good definition of various stage sizes. Everything always sounds somewhat small. You can kind of tell differences between small, medium, and large, but it never goes into grand size. It's just a very small, intimate type of sound stage. Everything is right here, right around you. It does a good job with imaging within the very small space, though. You can track things as they go across the stage, and you can kind of follow things as they go in between and around and behind and in front of things. Layering is okay. It's not the best at layering, but there is enough layering to keep things isolated and separated out. Even though it gets a little bit on the cramped and small side, it doesn't sound convoluted and confused unless it's a very complex track or a very heavy bass track, and then at times it'll get a little bit of that muddledness. The soundstage also does a good job of being, it's over here in this neighborhood. It's not the most precise and accurate, but you can follow things across as they go, and it's kind of right in here. As mentioned, layering, not the best, but it does okay. And then also depth-wise, it's not the deepest of stages, but you can dissect things a couple of rows. Detail retrieval and resolution of the MMCX is about average for the price point. You're not going to get anything super special here. It's not the most, best at detail retrieval, but you're not going to really lack anything either. It's just not the most detailed of IEMs at this price point. It won't let you down, but also it won't wow you. And then resolution is pretty good, especially in the bass and the mids. The resolution is pretty good, but when you get into the uppers, into the lower treble region and upper mids region, there is a little bit of a harshness and a graininess that comes out at times. It's not the most refined and focused in the uppers. Tone and timbre is pretty good. I found it to be fairly natural, especially in the bass and the mids. And then when it gets into the upper regions, it has a little bit of a lackadaisical side, and it doesn't quite have the bite in the edge like the bass and the mids have. And I wish that had just a little bit more and sounded a little bit more natural. But for the most part, it won't disappoint when it comes to a natural tone and timbre. So the BASN MMCX, it is touted to be for stage monitoring and for all-around listening. It does an okay job when it comes to stage monitoring. I do think that you can do better for its price point, but it is doable, especially if you understand that it has its laid-off treble and you're not going to quite get those little bit extra bite and crispness. And then the bass can be a little bit more than a neutral. How does it compare to a stage monitor that I do use on a regular basis? And that is the CTM CE110. Now the CTM CE110 is a stage monitor for bassists and percussionists, just like the BASN MMCX is more focused for bassists and percussionists. I find that the CTM is a better refined, defined, and focused IEM. I find that the CTM has a better soundstage. It is a little bit wider, has a little bit more air and space, does slightly better with its imaging and placement. It's a little bit more accurate, and it is better with depth and layering. It has a more immersive type of sound presentation when it comes to instruments and vocalist placement, and it does a good job with the bass being powerful and impactful, but also textured, and it has a little bit more rumble and grumble in the sub bass, while all being more about the quality than the quantity. The mids of the CTM have a little bit more definition and a little bit more focus, and have a little bit more air and space, aren't quite as rounded and smooth. And then the treble has better extension. There's a little bit more air and crispness, and overall it just sounds a little bit more open sounding. And so I find that the CTM CE110 is more of the stage monitor than the MMCX, but I find that the MMCX is a little bit better when it comes to an all-around sound. I find that the MMCX is more pleasurable to listen to on all genres of music versus the CE110. So if you're looking for an all-arounder that can do dual duty, can be pleasurable to listen to your favorite tunes, and then can be used on stage, the BASN MMCX is a good little product. I was rather impressed for $110 what it offers. It's not the most detailed and resolving of IEMs, but at the same time, it gives you enough in that regard. It has a little bit smaller, cozier of a soundstage than I prefer, and it has a little bit limited depth and layering, and it has that bass that is a little bit more impactful and slammy and punchy. But overall, I really do enjoy the MMCX, and I find that BASN has done a good job of combining the two needs of being a stage monitor and being an all-arounder. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check all those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information down here regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon, YouTube, and through all the other one-time gifts. So thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. Is much appreciated. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can do it with one-time gifts through PayPal, Venmo, and also YouTube. And then if you want to support it through monthly subscriptions, you can do that with Patreon and YouTube memberships. You can also join my Discord server and have access to me asking all kinds of questions and whatever else you want to ask on Discord, chat with other people and discuss all the things that you have in common and explore new gear. Also, you can support the channel through Patreon, YouTube memberships, and get videos early if you want. So check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can connect with the channel and support it. Also down below, there's all kinds of other information regarding music recommendations, gear rankings, all that kind of stuff is listed down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music and that honesty is the best policy.